The shadow of absence, awakening to grief's silent call. Imagine this, the empty chair at the table. It's not just wood and fabric anymore. It's a void, a silent echo of laughter that once filled the room, of hands that intertwined over shared meals, of whispered dreams exchanged in the quiet hours. For years, it was occupied by the one person who made the world feel whole, your spouse, your companion through the storms and sunrises of life. Now it's empty, a stark reminder of loss. But what if I told you that this empty chair is not merely a symbol of sorrow, but an invitation? An invitation to rebuild, to rediscover, to transform the ache into something profound. It's a call to sit with the pain, not to flee from it, and in doing so, find the strength to invite new light into your life. This is the journey we're embarking on together, a cinematic exploration of grief after losing a spouse. Not as an endless night, but as a dawn breaking through the darkness. Grief isn't just sorrow, it's a profound transformation, a reshaping of your soul's landscape. It strips away the illusions, forces you to confront the raw edges of existence, and ultimately, if you let it, reveals a resilience you never knew you possessed. But along this path, there are pitfalls, mistakes that can deepen the isolation, turning temporary loneliness into a chronic companion. In this script, we'll uncover 5 such mistakes that fuel loneliness after a spouse's death. These aren't judgments. They're signposts drawn from the stories of countless widows and widowers who've walked this road before you. We'll weave through emotional tempests, practical quagmires, and spiritual awakenings, using metaphors from nature's cycles, tales from everyday heroes, and the harsh realities of our modern world. Where social media amplifies isolation, financial pressures loom like gathering clouds, and self-neglect can erode the very foundation of your being. Think of grief as a vast ocean. In the immediate aftermath of loss, you're adrift in its depths, waves crashing over you with memories, regrets, and what-ifs. The water is cold, unforgiving, pulling you under with the weight of unanswered questions. Why them? Why now? How do I go on? But beneath the surface, there's a current, a transformative force that can carry you to new shores. It's not about forgetting, it's about integrating the loss into your story, turning the pain into purpose. Yet many drown in loneliness because they make mistakes that isolate them further, mistakes born from the fog of grief. These errors aren't inevitable, they're choices, often unconscious, that we can learn to avoid. Let's begin with the first mistake, isolating yourself from the world, retreating into a shell of solitude when connection is the lifeline you need most. Picture Sarah, a woman in her mid-50s, whose husband, Tom, passed away suddenly from a heart attack after 30 years of marriage. Their home in a quiet, suburban neighborhood had always been their sanctuary, a place filled with the aroma of Tom's famous chili on Sundays, the sound of their laughter echoing off the walls during family game nights. But after his death, the house felt like a tomb. The phone rang with concerned calls from friends and family, but Sarah let them go to voicemail. "I just need time alone," she'd tell herself, curling up on the couch with Tom's old sweater, staring at photos on her phone. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. She avoided the grocery store where she'd bump into neighbors, skipped the book club she'd loved, and even ignored invitations to coffee from her sister. In her mind, no one could understand her pain. Sharing it would only dilute it, make it less real. But here's the truth, whispered like a gentle breeze through autumn leaves. Isolation doesn't honor the loss, it amplifies it. Loneliness after a spouse's death isn't just about the physical absence. It's the emotional void that grows when we shut out the world. In our modern era, where digital connections promise closeness but often deliver superficiality, it's easy to hide behind screens. Sarah scrolled through social media late at night, seeing friends' posts about vacations and milestones, feeling a pang of envy mixed with guilt. How can they move on so easily, she'd wonder, not realizing that her isolation was fueling a cycle of despair. Studies from psychologists like those at the American Psychological Association show that prolonged social withdrawal after bereavement increases the risk of chronic loneliness, leading to higher rates of depression and even physical health declines, such as weakened immune systems. Metaphorically, think of your social network as a forest. Your spouse was the tallest tree, providing shade, strength, and companionship. When that tree falls, the canopy opens, exposing you to harsh elements. But the forest doesn't die. Other trees, friends, family, community, reach out with their branches. By isolating, you're refusing their shelter, standing alone in the storm. Sarah's mistake was common. She believed vulnerability was weakness. Yet sharing grief is an act of courage. It invites others in, allowing them to share stories of their own losses, creating bonds forged in empathy. To avoid this mistake, start small. Reach out to one person today, a text, a call, a walk in the park. Join a support group, like those offered by organizations such as Grief Share or local hospices, where voices echo your own pain, reminding you that you're not alone. Remember, loneliness thrives in silence. Connection starves it. Now, as the shadows lengthen in our narrative, let's delve deeper into the psychological impact of this isolation. Loneliness isn't a fleeting emotion. It's a predator, stalking the corridors of your mind. It whispers doubts. You're burdensome. No one wants to hear your stories again. For widowers like John, a retired engineer whose wife, Emily, succumbed to cancer after a long battle, this loneliness manifested as regret. John replayed their last conversations in his head, regretting the times he'd prioritized work over weekends away. Anxiety crept in, turning sleepless nights into marathons of what-ifs. What if he'd noticed the symptoms sooner? What if they'd traveled more? This regret, unchecked, became a barrier to new connections, keeping him isolated. Psychologically, grief triggers a cascade of responses. The brain's amygdala, that ancient alarm system, goes into overdrive, flooding you with stress hormones like cortisol. Loneliness exacerbates this, leading to heightened anxiety and a sense of disconnection from reality. In modern life, where we're bombarded by images of perfect couples on Instagram or TikTok, this can feel even more acute. You might avoid social gatherings, fearing the pitying looks or the awkward questions. How are you holding up? But avoiding them only deepens the wound. Yet within this darkness lie hidden lessons. Isolation, if confronted, teaches clarity. It forces you to examine your life without distractions, to ask, what truly matters? For Sarah, months into her solitude, a moment of epiphany came during a solitary walk in the woods. The rustling leaves reminded her of Tom's love for nature hikes. In that quiet, she realized her isolation wasn't protecting her grief. It was preventing healing. This clarity birthed wisdom. Grief isn't linear. It's a spiral, circling back to pain, but ascending toward understanding. Empowering yourself means recognizing these patterns. Journaling can be a powerful tool here. Set aside 10 minutes a day to write, not just the sorrows, but the gratitudes. Today, I remember Tom's smile when he won at Scrabble. This practice, rooted in cognitive behavioral therapy principles, rewires the brain, shifting focus from loss to legacy. As we transition seamlessly into the second mistake, consider how isolation often intertwines with hasty financial decisions, another pitfall that can isolate you further by creating stress and regret. The second mistake, rushing into financial changes without pause or counsel, letting grief cloud judgment and leading to choices that compound loneliness. Envision Mark, a 62-year-old accountant whose wife, Lisa, died in a car accident. Their life had been meticulously planned, savings for retirement, a cozy home by the lake, dreams of traveling to Europe. In the blur of funeral arrangements and paperwork, Mark felt overwhelmed. Bills piled up, and in his grief-stricken state, he made impulsive decisions, selling the family car too cheaply, dipping into retirement funds for unnecessary home renovations to erase reminders, even investing in a risky stock tip from a well-meaning but uninformed friend. Months later, financial strain added to his emotional burden, making him reluctant to socialize. How could he afford dinners out or trips with friends? In today's world, where financial literacy is crucial yet often overlooked in grief education, this mistake is rampant. Widows and widowers face a barrage of decisions: handling joint accounts, claiming life insurance, navigating Social Security benefits. The emotional fog makes it hard to think clearly. Regret sets in when realizations hit. I shouldn't have sold the house so soon. This regret fuels anxiety, leading to withdrawal. Loneliness grows as financial worries make you feel inadequate, ashamed to seek help. Think of your finances as a garden. Your spouse was the co-gardener, tending to it together. After loss, weeds of uncertainty sprout. Rushing to uproot everything risks destroying the blooms. Instead, pause. Seek professional advice, a financial planner specializing in bereavement, or free resources from AIRP or the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. The psychological toll here is profound. Anxiety over money triggers the fight or flight response, heightening feelings of vulnerability. Modern challenges amplify this. Inflation, market volatility, the gig economy's instability. For many, especially women who may have deferred financial decisions to their spouses, this can lead to a crisis of confidence. But hidden in this challenge is a lesson of inner strength. Mark, after hitting rock bottom with mounting debts, joined a widower's financial support group online. Sharing stories, he learned to budget mindfully, turning regret into resolve. This built resilience, showing that vulnerability leads to empowerment. Practical tools. Create a grief budget. Allocate time weekly to review finances without decisions. Use apps like Mint or YNAB for tracking. Journal financial fears. What scares me most? How can I address it? Small steps like consulting an advisor build momentum. As we weave forward, notice how these mistakes interconnect. Isolation breeds poor decisions, which deepen regret, cycling back to loneliness. Yet each holds a seed of transformation. Now let's explore the third mistake. Neglecting your health, both physical and mental, allowing grief to erode your body and spirit, isolating you from life's joys. Visualize Elena, a vibrant teacher in her late 40s, whose husband, Carlos, lost his battle with Alzheimer's. For years, she'd been his caregiver, sacrificing sleep, exercise, and meals. After his passing, exhaustion lingered. She skipped doctor visits, ate comfort foods mindlessly, and ignored the persistent fatigue. What's the point, she'd think, lying in bed scrolling through old photos, tears streaming. Depression crept in, a heavy fog, making even simple tasks daunting. Friends noticed her withdrawal, but Elena brushed them off, her neglected health becoming a barrier to connection. Neglecting health is a silent thief in grief. Physically, grief suppresses the immune system, increases inflammation, and disrupts sleep. Modern life stressors like work demands and pollution compound this. Mentally, depression can manifest as apathy, making social engagement feel impossible. According to the CDC, bereaved individuals are at higher risk for heart disease, diabetes, and mental health disorders if self-care lapses. Metaphorically, your body is a temple. Your spouse, its co-guardian. After loss, it's easy to let it crumble. But rebuilding starts with honoring it. Elena's turning point came when a health scare, a fainting spell, forced her to the doctor. Diagnosis: severe anemia from poor nutrition. This woke her to the lesson. Neglecting health dishonors the love shared as it prevents living fully. Psychological impact. Loneliness and depression form a vicious loop. Regret over past health choices with your spouse or yourself intensifies anxiety. In our fast-paced world where wellness trends bombard us, yet true self-care is rare, this mistake is prevalent. Hidden lessons. Through neglect, you learn wisdom about boundaries. Grief clarifies priorities. Health is the foundation for renewal. Practical tools. Establish routines. Daily walks, like a metaphor for moving forward. Nutrition. Simple meals evoking shared memories. Support. Therapy or apps like Calm for mindfulness. Journal health goals. Today, I choose nourishment. As part 1 draws to a close, reflect on these first 3 mistakes: isolation, hasty finances, health neglect. They fueled loneliness, but also illuminated paths to healing. In the parts ahead, we'll uncover the remaining mistakes and build toward renewal. The weight of memory, navigating the past without losing the future. The photograph on the nightstand holds more than a moment, it holds a lifetime. The smile of your spouse, frozen in time, is both a treasure and a tether. It pulls you back to days of shared dreams, late-night talks, and the comfort of their presence. But when grief wraps around you like a heavy fog, that photograph can become a shrine. anchoring you to the past so tightly that the future feels out of reach. This is where we find ourselves now. In the heart of our journey through grief's landscape, confronting two more mistakes that fuel loneliness after a spouse's death. These errors, clinging to the past and avoiding new beginnings, can deepen the isolation, but they also hold the seeds of transformation, waiting to be nurtured into hope and renewal. In part one, we explored the dangers of isolating yourself, rushing into financial decisions, and neglecting your health. Each mistake, like a storm cloud, casts a shadow over the path to healing. Now in part two, we dive deeper, weaving through the emotional and spiritual currents of grief. We'll uncover the fourth mistake, holding on to the past so fiercely that it stifles growth, like a tree refusing to shed its autumn leaves. Then we'll confront the fifth mistake, resisting new beginnings, shying away from the possibilities that honor your spouse's legacy while forging a new chapter. Through stories, metaphors, and the raw realities of modern life, where social media amplifies comparison and societal expectations pressure us to move on too soon, we'll illuminate the psychological toll, the hidden lessons, and the practical tools to navigate this terrain. Let's begin with the fourth mistake, clinging to the past, letting memories become chains rather than wings, isolating you from the present and the people who could share your journey. Picture Rachel, a 58-year-old librarian whose husband David passed away from a sudden stroke. Their life together was a tapestry of quiet joys. Saturday mornings at the farmer's market, evenings spent reading aloud to each other, their home filled with books and love. After David's death, Rachel couldn't bear to change anything. His coat stayed on the rack, his gardening tools untouched in the shed, his favorite mug on the kitchen counter, waiting for a coffee he'd never drink. She'd sit for hours replaying their last vacation in her mind, a trip to the coast where they'd laughed under a starry sky. If I let go of these things, she thought, I let go of him. But this clinging came at a cost. Friends stopped visiting, sensing the house was a museum of grief. Rachel's world shrank, her loneliness growing as she held on to relics that whispered of loss rather than love. This mistake is universal, rooted in the fear that moving forward betrays the one you've lost. In our modern world, where digital footprints linger, old texts, voicemails, social media posts, it's easier than ever to stay tethered to the past. You might scroll through your spouse's Facebook page, watching videos of their laughter, or listen to a saved voicemail just to hear their voice. Each moment feels sacred, but over time, it can trap you in a loop of sorrow. Psychologists call this complicated grief, where fixation on the past prevents processing the loss. Studies like those from the National Institute of Mental Health show that prolonged rumination increases depression and anxiety, making social connection feel daunting. You might avoid gatherings, fearing questions about how you're doing, or feeling guilty for smiling when you're supposed to be mourning. Metaphorically, think of grief as a river. Your spouse was the current that carried you, steady and strong. Now without them, the river feels stagnant, pooling around memories. Clinging to the past is like building a dam, temporary comfort, but it blocks the flow toward healing. Rachel's dam was her refusal to pack away David's things, to redecorate, or to share new stories with others. Yet the river of life demands movement. The lesson here is clarity. Memories are not the love itself, but echoes of it. Holding them gently allows you to carry your spouse's essence forward without being anchored in place. To avoid this mistake, start with small acts of release. Rachel began by donating one of David's books to the library, inscribing it with a note about his love for literature. This act honored him while loosening the chains. Practical tools include journaling prompts like, "What memory of my spouse inspires me to live fully today?" Or creating a legacy project, perhaps a scrapbook or a community initiative in their name. Support groups like those through the Modern Widows Club offer spaces to share memories without judgment, helping you weave them into a narrative of growth rather than loss. The psychological impact of clinging to the past is profound. Regret often fuels it. Regret for words unsaid, moments missed. Anxiety creeps in, whispering, "What if I forget them?" In our hyper-connected world, where curated memories on platforms like Instagram can feel like a highlight reel of what's lost, this can intensify. but the hidden lesson is wisdom. Grief teaches you to discern what to carry and what to release. Rachel learned this when she finally cleared the garden shed, planting new flowers in David's honor. The act didn't erase him, it celebrated him, freeing her to reconnect with friends who'd been waiting to share her journey. Now let's flow into the fifth mistake: resisting new beginnings, shutting the door on opportunities that could bring light out of fear or guilt, thus deepening loneliness. Imagine Michael, a 65-year-old retiree whose wife, Susan, died after a long battle with heart disease. Their marriage was a partnership of adventure, hiking trails, trying new restaurants, planning a dream trip to Japan. After Susan's passing, Michael's world dimmed. Friends invited him to join a hiking group, but he declined, thinking it wouldn't be the same without her. A neighbor suggested a cooking class, but Michael brushed it off, feeling disloyal for considering joy without Susan. He stayed home, surrounded by memories, his loneliness growing as life moved on without him. The idea of new beginnings felt like betrayal, a step away from the love they'd built. This resistance is a common trap. Society often sends mixed messages. Take your time to grieve, but also, when are you going to move on? Social media amplifies this, showcasing others' seemingly seamless transitions, new hobbies, new relationships, making you feel left behind. Psychologically, resisting new beginnings stems from guilt and fear of change. The brain, wired for familiarity, clings to the known, even if it's painful. According to research from the American Psychological Association, avoiding new experiences after loss correlates with higher rates of chronic loneliness, as it limits opportunities for social bonds and personal growth. Picture your life as a book, your spouse a co-author of its richest chapters. Their death ends a volume, but not the story. Resisting new beginnings is like refusing to write the next chapter, leaving blank pages where growth could flourish. Michael's turning point came when he joined that hiking group, spurred by a memory of Susan's encouragement. Live big, Mike. On the trail, he shared stories of their adventures, finding connection with others who'd also lost partners. The lesson here is inner strength. New beginnings don't erase love. They honor it by living it forward. To avoid this mistake, take micro steps. Try one new activity, a class, a volunteer role, a walk in a new park. Michael started with a single hike, which led to weekly outings. Practical tools include setting intentions. This week, I'll try one thing my spouse would have loved for me. Apps like Meetup can connect you to local groups, while online communities like those on Reddit's ERR Widowers offer virtual support. Journaling can help. What small step feels possible today? These acts build momentum, weaving new threads into your life's tapestry. The psychological toll of resisting new beginnings is heavy. Loneliness festers when you deny yourself joy, feeding depression and anxiety. Regret compounds it. Regret for not living fully, for letting fear win. In our modern world, where change is constant and opportunities abound, this mistake can feel like standing still in a rushing crowd. Yet the hidden lesson is empowerment. Each new step is a choice to carry your spouse's love into the world, not leave it behind. Practical tools for both mistakes overlap. Journaling bridges the past and future. Write letters to your spouse about new experiences, blending memory with growth. Support groups, whether in person or online, provide safe spaces to share without judgment. Mindfulness practices like meditation apps, Headspace Insight Timer, ground you in the present, easing the pull of the past and fear of the future. Financially, new beginnings might mean budgeting for a class or trip. Small investments in joy that counteract the strain of earlier mistakes. As we close part 2, reflect on these mistakes, clinging to the past and resisting new beginnings. They're intertwined, each feeding loneliness by keeping you from the present. But within them lie lessons of clarity, wisdom, and strength. In part 3, we'll weave these threads into an inspiring call to action, showing how grief can become a path to honoring love while embracing a renewed life. The dawn of renewal, embracing grief as a path to honor and hope. The lake lies still, its surface a mirror for the dawn's first light. In the quiet, a rowboat sways, empty yet full of possibility. This is where we stand now, at the edge of grief's vast waters, where the pain of losing a spouse meets the promise of renewal. The empty boat is not just a symbol of absence, it's a vessel for your journey forward, a reminder that you hold the oars. Grief, though heavy, is not the end of your story. It's a chapter that can lead to transformation, to a life that honors your lost love while embracing new horizons. In this final part of our cinematic exploration, we weave together the lessons from the 5 mistakes: isolating yourself, rushing financial decisions, neglecting health, clinging to the past, and resisting new beginnings, into a powerful call to action. We'll illuminate the path from loneliness to connection, from regret to resilience, using stories, metaphors, and practical tools to guide you toward a future where love endures in action, not just memory. In parts 1 and 2, we navigated the stormy seas of grief's early days and the weight of memory that can anchor you in place. We uncovered how isolation builds walls, how hasty financial choices breed regret, how neglecting health dims your spirit, how clinging to the past stifles growth, and how resisting new beginnings blocks joy. These mistakes, like shadows, deepen loneliness, but they also cast light on hidden strengths, clarity, wisdom, inner resilience. Now in part 3, we turn toward the dawn, synthesizing these lessons into a roadmap for healing. We'll explore the psychological and spiritual dimensions of moving forward, confront modern challenges like digital overload and societal pressure, and offer practical steps to transform grief into a tribute to love. This is not about getting over your spouse's death. It's about carrying their legacy into a life of purpose, connection, and hope. The psychological and spiritual landscape of renewal grief is a paradox. It breaks you open, exposing your deepest vulnerabilities, yet it also reveals your capacity for growth. Psychologically, the journey through loss reshapes the brain. The initial shock floods your system with stress hormones, as we saw in part 1. But over time, engaging with grief can strengthen neural pathways for resilience. Studies from the American Psychological Association show that those who actively process grief through connection, reflection, and new experiences develop greater emotional regulation and a renewed sense of purpose. Spiritually, grief strips away superficialities, forcing you to confront existential questions. Who am I without them? What does my life mean now? For many, this becomes a sacred journey, a chance to rediscover faith, whether in a higher power, the universe, or the enduring bond of love. Consider Laura, a 60-year-old artist whose husband James died after a long illness. Their life was a canvas of shared creativity, painting together, hosting art workshops, dreaming of a gallery show. After James's passing, Laura stopped painting, her studio gathering dust. Loneliness consumed her as she fell into the mistakes we've explored. Isolating herself, selling their shared studio space too quickly, neglecting her health, clinging to James's old sketches, and refusing new invitations. But a turning point came during a grief support group where a fellow widower shared, "I honor my wife by living the life she believed I could." This sparked a realization. Laura's grief could be a brushstroke, not a barrier. She began painting again, creating a series dedicated to James, each piece a step toward healing. Metaphorically, grief is like a forest fire. It devastates, leaving ash and ruin, but it also clears space for new growth. The mistakes we've discussed are like lingering embers, keeping you in the charred remains. Renewal is the green shoot breaking through, fragile but determined. Laura's story shows that avoiding these mistakes, reaching out, pacing decisions, caring for body and mind, releasing the past gently, embracing new beginnings, creates fertile ground for this growth. Modern challenges and the call to action. In our modern world, the path to renewal faces unique obstacles. Social media, while a tool for connection, often amplifies loneliness. You might see others posting about new chapters, remarriages, travels, achievements, and feel left behind, as if your grief disqualifies you from joy. Societal expectations add pressure. It's been a year, shouldn't you be better? Financial strain, as we saw in part 1, looms larger in an era of economic uncertainty, with rising costs and complex systems like Social Security or inheritance laws. Physical and mental health challenges, exacerbated by sedentary lifestyles or digital overload, make self-care harder. Yet these challenges also highlight the urgency of our call to action. Grief is not a destination, but a passage, a journey to honor your spouse by living fully. This call to action is both compassionate and empowering. Transform grief into a tribute to love by avoiding the 5 mistakes and embracing practical, intentional steps. Let's weave together the tools from parts 1 and 2, adding new ones, to create a roadmap for renewal. Step 1. Rebuild connection to combat. Isolation loneliness thrives in solitude, but connection is its antidote. Start with one outreach daily. A call, a text, a coffee date. Join a grief support group like GriefShare or online communities on platforms like Reddit's or Awad Our Widowers. Laura found solace in a local art therapy group where sharing her paintings sparked conversations that eased her isolation. If social media feels overwhelming, curate your feed. Unfollow accounts that trigger comparison. Follow ones that inspire, e.g. pages dedicated to grief support or mindfulness. Connection doesn't erase pain, it shares its weight. Step 2. Pace financial decisions with wisdom. Avoid the regret of hasty choices by creating a grief budget for time and money. Set aside weekly moments to review finances without acting impulsively. Consult a financial advisor specializing in bereavement, or use free resources from AIRP or the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. Apps like Mint or WireNab can track spending, grounding you in clarity. Laura paused selling more of James's art supplies, instead donating a few to a community center, turning a potential regret into a meaningful act. Step 3. Prioritize health as a foundation. Your body and mind are the vessels for renewal. Establish small routines. A 10-minute walk, a nutritious meal, a mindfulness practice via apps like Calm or Headspace. Laura began yoga, finding it mirrored her emotional journey, stretching through discomfort toward strength. Regular checkups, even when daunting, prevent health crises that deepen loneliness. Journal health goals. Today, I choose one act of care for my body. These steps honor your spouse's wish for your well-being. Step 4. Honor the past with purpose. Instead of clinging to relics, transform memories into acts of legacy. Create a tribute, a scholarship, a garden, a piece of art. Laura's paintings became a traveling exhibit, raising funds for a local hospice in James's name. Journal prompts like, "What did my spouse love that I can share with the world?" help reframe memories as inspiration. Clear physical spaces gradually, one item at a time, donating or repurposing with intention. This releases the past without erasing it, freeing you to live in the present. Step 5. Embrace new beginnings with courage. New experiences are not betrayal, but a celebration of love's enduring impact. Try one new activity weekly, a class, a volunteer role, a trip. Laura joined a community art project, finding joy in teaching others, echoing James's passion. Set intentions. This week, I'll do one thing my spouse would cheer for. Apps like Meetup connect you to local groups. Online forums offer virtual camaraderie. Each step forward writes a new chapter, carrying your spouse's love into the world. The spiritual call, honoring love. Through living spiritually, renewal is about weaving your spouse's essence into your future. Their love is not confined to the past. It's a light that guides you. For those with faith, prayer or meditation can anchor this process. For others, it's about finding meaning in small acts, planting a tree, helping a neighbor, sharing a story. Laura found peace in a ritual. Each morning, she'd light a candle and speak to James, sharing her plans. This bridged the spiritual and practical, grounding her in purpose. In our fast-paced world, where distractions abound, this call requires intention. Silence the noise. Limit screen time. Seek quiet spaces. Reflect on what your spouse valued. Was it kindness, adventure, community? Live those values forward. The psychological reward is profound. Purpose reduces anxiety, fosters resilience, and combats loneliness. The spiritual reward is connection to your spouse's legacy, to others, to your own evolving self. A final story of transformation. Let's return to Laura. A year after James's death, she stood before her exhibit, paintings glowing under gallery lights. Friends, family, and strangers gathered, sharing stories of loss and love. Laura spoke of James not with tears but with a smile, her voice steady. He taught me to see beauty in every stroke, even the painful ones. The loneliness that once consumed her had softened, replaced by connection, purpose, and hope. Her grief wasn't gone, it was transformed, a brushstroke in a larger canvas of life. This is your invitation. Let grief be your teacher, not your captor. Avoid the mistakes that fuel loneliness. Reach out, pace decisions, care for yourself, honor the past, embrace the new. Row the boat forward, not to leave your spouse behind, but to carry their love into a world that needs it. The dawn is breaking. Will you step into its light?